Welcome to Upside Down Influencer, where we talk about the things that we see on social media and how we as Christ followers can do them differently. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. Well, today is a different episode than normal because I don't have a guest. I am the guest. I have not done this yet for a few reasons. Insecurity, that thought of who's going to listen to me, not to mention I really need to work on the skill set of being able to just sit here and talk without getting anything back. That's something I struggle with, and I really admire people who can just chit chat. So I guess I cannot get better at this thing if I don't do it. And I've had a couple of people who put that little bug in my ear of saying, hey, what are your thoughts on doing a solo episode? I think you should try to do that. So here I am, trying to be obedient, and here we go. A lot has happened in the past couple of weeks that have really changed a lot in our nation. I feel like it has changed a lot in my own heart, my views, and my walk with God. I keep hearing a lot of the same language from my friends or people that I follow online saying, post Charlie Kirk assassination, I just feel like I want to have bold faith. I truly want to learn how to be set apart and just have strong convictions and not be afraid of them. And for me, I would say that's true. That is something that I experienced and that happened to me. And it's not that I wasn't feeling that way before. I think after the assassination happened, there was just this feeling that emboldened me. But even before all that happened, I've always felt like the thing that God has put on my life, and this is not necessarily something that I'm going, hey, look at me, is to help equip the believer to be set apart and different from the world. The reality is, though, that starts with ourselves. That starts with the inward work. And so I just thought it was appropriate to share some of the things that God has been doing in my life and ways that he is calling me to live differently and things that I'm learning now. And maybe you'll be able to relate. Maybe it will also challenge you in some way. So these are the things that God is doing now in my life to help me live differently, both online and, just nudged my mic, both online and offline. Well, if you want to be different from the world, something that has been put on my heart has been to just be more hospitable. For some reason, I don't know if it's social media that has done this or what, but it's like so easy to flake on people and to make plans and just to be like, I've got something else, or just to be selfish. And especially in motherhood for me, obviously I give myself some grace, especially for that first year when you're learning how to be a new mom. But it can be really easy to want to choose yourself and just to stay in the comfort of your home and to not show up for other people or to go to the play dates or things like that. But I feel so strongly that the Lord is telling me, hey, you need to show up for other people. I was talking to my friend who's also my next door neighbor now, which was really cool. But she recommended this book to me. It's called The Gospel Comes with a House Key. I'm only like maybe 50 pages in, but it has challenged me a lot in the ways that I use my own home to just be a place that glorifies God by bringing people in and hosting and all the things. So anyways, I just wanted to read you a line or two that really stuck out to me, and it's immediately in the beginning, and you can see why when I read it, I'm like, ugh. Gosh, that is a gut punch. Engaging in radically ordinary hospitality means we provide the time necessary to build strong relationships with people who think differently than we do, as well as build strong relationships from within the family of God. It means we know that only hypocrites and cowards let their words be stronger than their relationships, making sneaky raids into culture on social media or behaving like moralizing social prigs in the neighborhood. Radically ordinary hospitality shows the skeptical post-Christian world what authentic Christianity looks like. Oh, man. Again, I'm only like 50 pages in, but I highly encourage you to read it because it's challenged me big time. And where my mind goes to when I read that second paragraph, when it talked about even just like engaging in the family of God, is just the importance of friendships. I saw this video by this influencer, and it's hard. We can't ever interpret people's hearts on social media because we don't know. However, it's also important to pay attention to the things that people say. And, she is a mom to many children. And the overall message of the video was saying how in this season of her life, she just doesn't have time for friendships. And that, she is like, I'm okay with being a bad friend right now. And my best friends are my kids, my husband, or whatever. And it made me really sad because I think the thing that has grown me so much in the past 2 years is I have found this amazing group of mom friends. One thing they have demonstrated to me so well is no matter how many kids they have, no matter how busy they are, they show up for other people. I have some friends who have 4 children that I'm like, what? Like, you're picking up those kids from school, or you're still going all the way across town to do this thing for your friend? And just the selflessness has just been so eye-opening for me. We just live in a society that in a way glorifies self, and I'm a victim of that too. And they've just really stretched me and opened my eyes to that. And so it made me a little bit sad when I saw somebody who was saying, oh, I'm okay with being a bad friend, because the truth is you actually really need people, and vice versa. They actually need you too. And please hear my heart when I say, I don't think you're a bad person if you're not out there, just giving all of your time and energy. I'm just saying it has just grown me a lot to see how my friends have done it. Despite their busy schedules, it has just really demonstrated Christ to me and the way that I would like to be, because there's so many times that I just want to choose myself, but yet I see them being selfless. And I want to be more like that. In that same light, if you want to be different from the world, you need those friends. You need a group of people who are going to challenge you and tell you when you're off base, but also cheer you on and help you fight for your marriage. There have been multiple times, or maybe there was a marriage on the rocks in our friends group, and we never ever tear down. We always build up, and we always pray for the health of the marriage. Do you have friends like that? Because if you don't, I want that for you, and you should strive to find some. Get plugged into a small group or a disciple group, or anywhere where there's going to be people who are friends that feel like family. All right. If you want to be different from this world and learn how to be set apart, you also need to be obedient to the season that you're in. And for me right now, that looks like learning to enjoy motherhood. This is so interesting and a little bit difficult for me to talk about because I'm not sure if I'm going to word it correctly, but I think there was a part of me growing up that knew I wanted kids and to be a mom, but I never really visualized it. Kind of like with my wedding, I knew that I wanted to get married, but when it came to the decor and all that, I wasn't the type of girl that had a Pinterest board of what I already wanted and how I wanted that wedding to look. All that to say, before I became a mom, I did have somewhat of a career. I went from working in as an intern at a news station to working in radio for a period of time to feeling the call to ministry, but still working in media, and then going and working for a Christian television network. There was just this progression there. And then eventually I got laid off from where I was working. And then I had an amazing son. And right now, life is at home. And right now, God is calling me right now to be a stay-at-home mom. And if I'm being completely honest, wow, it is so much harder than I think I ever expected. Not because my kid's bad or any of that, but because there's just this part of me that doesn't really know what I'm doing and never visualized myself as a stay-at-home mom. And all the time I'll be at church and I'll be like, Lord, just call me back to work at a church. I love church life. I would thrive. God, just tell me to go there and I will do that. And but all the time I feel like the reason that I'm not supposed to go back in that direction right now is because God has something for me here. He's trying to teach me something here and how to be challenged here and how to have a podcast and still take care of my child and future child. I have another one on the way coming in February. So in a way, I keep trying to find the out, take me to the more fun thing, the thing that takes me out of this place and transfers me over there. But that's not what God has for me right now. And he has something for me here, and I have to learn how to do it here. And I think that's all going to be a part of the story and learning how to just be in the hard and also learning how to love it. Because I don't want to miss either what the Lord has for me here. So in a world that's always pushing for bigger and better and next, maybe just start praying Lord, what do you have for me here right now? On a similar note, if you want to do things differently from the world, I believe we have to learn how to put in the mileage. We live in a world of instant gratification. No doubt if my Amazon order said it's going to take more than 2 days, I'm like, come on, what's the holdup? So we've really lost the ability to just have a long obedience in the same direction. But we all expect instant results, instant success. How do you ever get good at something if you don't put in the time, if you don't put in the mileage? If you're training for a marathon, there's a reason that you have to spread those long runs out. Otherwise, it's actually not good for you. You're going to break down your muscles. You're going to burn out. And so for me, there have been multiple times that I'm like, I don't know if this podcast is going anywhere. I don't know if anybody is listening. And over and over and over, through listening to other podcasts or something that I read in the Bible, I'll just hear God echo, be obedient, stay the course, put in the mileage. You're never going to get good at anything if you don't keep doing it. So take it from somebody who's also trying to just learn to be obedient despite not knowing really if there's much fruit yet. Keep going. Because to me, it wouldn't really be obedience if it was something super easy. Next, if you want to be different from the world, if you want to live set apart, if you want to have influence online, what are you doing in your life currently that demonstrates that? When I heard somebody challenge me like that, because I remember thinking I want to lead people on social media, I want to have influence, blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, well, am I doing that in my real life? Maybe I need to be leading a disciple group. So that's what I did. I went ahead and I led, it was like an 1825 group at our church. I'm like, okay, this is a practical way that I can serve and learn how to be obedient and leverage my influence and lead here. And that can look a lot of different ways in a lot of different seasons. But I would just ask you that if you're somebody that's asking yourself or feeling as if God is calling you to lead in some way, shape, or form, or to be an online influencer, how you do it in your real life is going to show up in how you do it online too. In fact, the online is more of like the overflow of what you're already doing in your real life. At times that looked like serving in my church, being the person at the front doors, leading disciple groups. Right now that looks more like hospitality and showing up for my friends or going out of my way to do something. So maybe start brainstorming that out and what that could look like in your real life. Next, if you want to be different from the world, you have to be okay with being exactly that. If I'm being honest, that's something that I wrestle with all the time, because there have been so many moments where I'll feel like my convictions are overkill, or other people might think that I've taken something too far. And it's especially difficult when I even feel like I'm the odd one out around other Christians. For example, something can happen in the world or in culture, and I'll just be way more convicted about something than maybe some of my friends or some of the things that I'll see on social media from other believers. So I've just been trying to learn how to use my discernment well, not to think that I'm holier than thou or better than anybody, but to go, okay, God, why am I so convicted about this? What are you trying to communicate to me? Something that I've learned is that sometimes my convictions aren't for everybody else to hear. It might just be an opportunity for me to pray and intercede. If you are feeling discernment about something, or maybe even a person, bring it to God, because other people might not see this thing yet. So instead of leaning into that temptation to judge, bring it to prayer. Use it as an opportunity to intercede on their behalf. But not to mention, we need people that have strong convictions. Somebody that I listen to, Lisa Bivier, all the time on her podcast will just convict me so deeply, because she'll have strong convictions about things, and I'm like, I don't know if I think that, or I don't know if I believe that, or I don't know if I'd go that far. But a lot of the times at the end of the day, I think she's right. But if it wasn't for her having those strong, bold convictions, maybe I wouldn't have gotten there in my own heart. So don't think of those things as bad things, even though sometimes the world might give you a hard time for them, and sometimes even other Christians, but it's important. God didn't give you that gift for no reason. And the truth is, the road is narrow. Again, in a similar light, if you want to be different from the world, if you want to be set apart, well, naturally that would mean that we shouldn't try to be like somebody else. And I'm not saying you can't take inspiration from another person, but God made us uniquely for a reason. And listen, I'm preaching to the choir here, okay? Especially while I've been starting up this podcast, there's so many people that I'll look at and I'll compare myself to, and compare how funny they are, or their voice, or the way their creativity shows through their stuff. And I'm like, I wish I should be more like them. I need to make my podcast sound more like that, blah, 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 blah. And all the time, God will just remind me in the depths of my soul that if he wanted to make two of that person, he would have, like he could have. But no, like he created me with my unique worldview, my perspective, with my gifts and talents. Because what if I told you the way that you look, the way that you sound, all the little quirks that you have are directly correlated to the plan and purpose that God has for you in your life? The pastor of my church, at the Church of 1122, his name is Pastor Joby Martin. And you can look him up. He definitely has a look. He's definitely a man's man. He certainly, just from the way that he looks and sounds and the way that he preaches, appeals to a certain type of person. And as weird as it sounds, it maybe you took away the way that the way that he looks or the way that he sounds, he would cease to be him, and he probably wouldn't attract, like, we have a very high male, congregant, I don't know. There's a lot of men that come to our church, which is an amazing thing considering that's not the case in so many churches around the world. And, but I firmly believe that God knew what he was doing when he made Pastor Joby look the way that he does, and he made him sound the way that he does, so that he gave him the brain that he has in order to connect with a very specific group of people. And the same is true for you and I. And so when there are days and I'm like, I wish I was more like that person, or I sounded like that person, but like God's like, but there's going to be people that resonate with you more than they resonate, or I shouldn't say more, but differently maybe than they resonate with that person, but maybe even more. It's a good thing. And so that's something that I'm walking through still when I'm like, Lord, how do you want to use me? What am I doing? I constantly just need the reminder that God made me uniquely me, and trying to be like anybody else, in fact, might even stifle the creativity that he gave me. And to be clear, I think it's great to take inspiration and to desire to be more like Christ. Like when I listen to Lisa Bevere and I listen to her boldness and all of the things, I go, wow, I want some of that. I want to be bold. I want to speak with strong convictions. I don't want to be afraid of what other people think. But if I start telling myself I want to be Lisa Bevere, there's a problem. Next, if you want to be different from the world, if you want to be set apart, if you want to have influence online, listen, you have to spend time with God. This is just such an interesting one because obviously I know that life seasons are going to dictate how this looks in a lot of different ways. Like for me, I feel like constantly throughout the day, I try to be in communication with the Lord, but I've just had this realization lately where I'll wake up around the same time my son wakes up, and I'll be trying to read my Bible, and I will read, but especially between now and when this next baby comes, I do sense that the Lord is like, hey, get up a little bit earlier and spend real time with me, because right now, it's just a little messy. It's a little, I'm pretty distracted when I'm trying to read my Bible and pay attention to my 2-year-old and do all the things at the same time. Not that that's a bad thing. And if that's your life, I totally understand. And I'm going to be thrown right back into a crazy, weird cycle come February with probably little to no routine. But my point is, it's really easy to talk about a friend that you know really well because you've spent time with them. And if you want to be telling more people about Jesus and talk about him like you know him, well, you have to know him, and you have to spend time with him, and you have to have that intentional time reading his word. So whatever you have to do in your life to make time for that, it's important. And for me, that might look like us moving our dinner schedule to closer to 5:30. That way my husband and I can put my son down, and then we can have still a little bit of time together in the evening, and then I can get to bed earlier so that I can wake up earlier. There are things that might have to shift, and whatever that looks like for you, ask yourself, are there things that realistically I can move around to make time to spend time in God's word? Again, I know that seasons matter and life can get chaotic. Totally on board with that. But if you can, and if you know you can, what changes can you make so that you can really just build that relationship with your Heavenly Father? I mean, I don't really know how to word this one or how to communicate this one, but if we want to look different from the world, for me, it looks like trusting God with the uncontrollables. And I don't necessarily want to go into it all right now, but there's just some areas in my life that I struggle with an element of anxiety. And often I find myself trying to control it and control things that I necessarily can't control, or I'll just be a control freak about it. Like there are some things, especially, right? Like I'll give you an example. Like sometimes when it comes to health stuff, I just try to put my hands all over it. And that's good to a degree, right? Like there's an element of like, hey, take care of your body, steward your body, whatever. And then there's an element of, am I being crazy? Have you ever just met a person that they should be really stressed out? And like there's just chaos around them, or maybe they have had some health things happening, and yet they are just joyful and full of peace and laid back and type B. And man, I don't know if I'll ever be fully that person, but I would really like to get close and learn just how to relax and lean into the Lord. And whenever I meet those people, I know that's something that I want, and I think they look so different from the rest of the world. I think my son just woke up. I just heard him make a noise. Oh yeah, he's sitting up playing with his feet. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap this up. Lastly, I think I don't really have anything really written for this, but if you want to be different from the world, if you want to be set apart, just be very cautious of what you're putting in your mind and what's coming through your eyes. This has been something that the Lord has been working on me in the past few years. There'll be times we'll be smack in the middle of some TV show that just, if I'm being honest, in the beginning, I'll have already been like, something about this feels like we shouldn't be watching this. And then finally, after like 5 episodes, I'm like, babe, we can't watch this. Like this is not drawing me closer to the Lord. Lately at the gym, I've just been very intentional to put on a podcast that is just going to fill me up instead of choosing to put on some Netflix show. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling more stressed out, if you're feeling even a little distant from God, maybe you should ask yourself, well, what are my habits right now? What am I taking through my eyes? And my husband and I have been using a program called VidAngel. This is not sponsored. Trust me, I don't have enough use for that. Basically, it's a program where you can find certain shows and it weeds out anything inappropriate, all the bad stuff. And honestly, I don't feel like the show that we're currently watching, I feel like I haven't missed anything. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I'm sure I'll have another list for you sometime. I hope this is a good place for you to start. If you're asking yourself the same question of, I know that God is calling me to more. I feel so deeply affected by the recent events, and I know I want to change things, but Lord, where do I start? And how do I do that? And so these are the things that, this is where God has me. If you liked this episode, could you just do me a favor and just let me know? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if it encouraged you in any way. Because again, for me, this was stepping out. This is a skill set that I am working on. And I guess not even just this episode. If any of my episodes have benefited you in any sort of way, it would mean a lot to me if you could leave a review and just to rate the podcast wherever you're listening to it. Thank you so much for listening. To follow along with us and to hear about other things that we're doing, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube.